together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
The views and opinions expressed on Trudging Together are solely those of the host, co-host, and our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization, fellowship, or other entity, and definitely not your boss, your neighbor, or that one guy in your home group. The content of this program is not intended to replace medical, psychological, or professional advice. If you're looking for that, please seek guidance from qualified professionals who spent way too many years in school. What you'll hear here is based on lived experience, recovery journeys, and the occasional bad coffee-fueled joke. Trudging Together is not affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. We are simply people sharing our stories and walking this path together, one day at a time. Thank you for joining us, and remember, recovery is serious business, but that doesn't mean we can't laugh along the way.
Hello. Finally got it done. Yeah, my disability paperwork. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't as hard as I made it out to be. It took some work, but it was not. It's going to be declined. They always get declined first. Well, I don't know. I did a pretty good job. I'm kind of lucky, though. A lot of my stuff was literally right on the page of Kaiser, and all I had to do was cut and paste. Along with the dates. See, that was the problem. I might like all these places, these dates. But then, like, when it came to employment, it wasn't that hard. I've only had one job in the last 5 years, and I wasn't there very long. So, got it done. Got her done. Thank you, ChatGPT, for your assistance. Yeah. That's a washer. Okay. Right. Weird sounds. Weird sounds. Yeah. Yeah. It's our traditions meeting tonight. Tradition 3. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Out of all the traditions, this is the one that gets the most discussion. But what if somebody's doing this? What if somebody's doing that? We start to get particulars. You watch. It'll happen tonight, too. It's all right. It's just it's part of how we go through things, how we figure things out. We're defiant. All right. All right. Welcome to Daily Trudge. I'm Dion. Yeah, I said with enthusiasm. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching live or the rewatch. Trying to name our new show, which is coming out on. I better get started on it, because it's this Friday. My daughter came up with one called, what did she call it? Let me scroll up here. Scroll up. Miller Without the Light, which is cool, but it doesn't quite do it. They came up with the Miller's No Light conversation, but do you get the joke? Miller Light, MGD, yeah. Okay, so yeah, what are you gonna do? Well, come up with a name. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I gotta do. I gotsta. So, all right. Well, welcome to everybody that is here. Usually when it's this late and I have one person here, it is usually Amber, and she is driving. So please be careful. Don't feel like you have to reply. We're going to go to ChatGPT here. I'm going to ask it to give me a random reading. Give me a random page from the big book. All right. See what it gives me. And drum roll. So hasn't given it to me. Drum roll. It's thinking random. I said to give me a page. It wants me to talk. No, I said, see, this is where you have to get okay. I asked for a random number. I did not ask you to come up with the topic. Okay? You gotta tell it exactly what you need. It's just a tool. It's just doing what it's told or what it thinks it's doing. There we go. 86. All right. Which I believe we read earlier. I believe that's exactly where I read earlier. Yes, Daisy. So we're gonna try again. Okay. I just did that one. LOL, please. Give me another. All right. Thankfully I typed fast. 417. All right. It's not, it's just picking out popular ones. Okay. Do not include the stories. It wants me to do acceptance. It literally gives me 417 on purpose because it's buying, right? It's just going by popularity. Do not include the stories and just give me a random number. Stop trying to figure things out. Seriously, all this just for a random number. 63. Fine. Fuck. We'll go ahead and start on page 62 because that's where, well, that's at 63. But then it goes into, all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the last paragraph of 62 because if I read all of 62, we'll be on that for a while because it's selfishness, self-centeredness that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of, okay, that's not, I have it memorized. I feel better now that I got that done. I'm feeling accomplished. All right. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. Didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, and we are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arc through which we pass to freedom. Yeah, that arc. You remember that door we talked about in step 2? Just talked about it just the other day. Talked about the key of willingness, did we not? That is the door. That's the door. That's the door that we're walking through. The key of willingness. Okay. And finding a higher power is the keystone that holds that arc together. A keystone is the stone on the very top of the arc, and without it, the whole thing falls apart. And then you won't have an archway in order to put a door. So see how these things fit together. Now you are also building an archway to which you will walk a free person. Yeah. Huh. Now, what I'm going to do is we are at the 3rd step, promises. And a few years back, I had a friend in a meeting and they brought up reading this. And I really like this concept for a couple of reasons. So what you do is you change the pronouns and read it out loud to yourself. Okay. And you can try this with all of the promises in the big book. And there's a lot of promises in the big book. So what it does is instead of kind of being up in the air on whether you're doing it or not, it makes it real. It becomes personal. When I say these things out loud and I apply it to just me, it becomes a statement. It becomes a fact. Yeah. And you'll know in your tummy, your intuition, that 6th sense that we talked about earlier, you will know whether it's correct or not. This is a good way to figure out how far along you've come in the program, what progress you have made when you read through the promises and put the pronouns into I, me, instead of they, them. or we, us, right? When I sincerely took a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. I had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided what I needed if I kept close to him and performed his work well. So far, so good. Established on such a footing, I became less and less interested in myself, my little plans and designs. Now you check. You read it, you say it out loud, and then you check. Is that happening? It sure the heck is. Look at that. Right? More and more, I became interested in seeing what I could contribute to life. Is that really going on? Again, ask your stomach. It's going to know. Arlen, right, and me interested to see what I could contribute to life. As I felt new power flow in, as I enjoyed peace of mind, as I discovered I could face life successfully, I became conscious of his presence. See how it's just fact instead of reading it and thinking that, well, it's for all of us. It now becomes very personal. Very personal, right? As I became conscious of his presence, I began to lose my fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. I was reborn. Now, when I say I was reborn, what am I saying? That it has happened. It has happened. And if your stomach's like, yeah, that happened, now you know, right? And that's a nice little trick to figure out where, if the promises are coming true for you, right? Yeah. All right, next is the third step prayer. All right. Some people memorize this, some people don't. I can't help it. I have dyslexia. I tend to memorize everything. So then it goes on to say, we are now at step 3. So everything that we were just talking about was step 2. Those, actually, they kind of combine a lot of it. All right. We are now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage yourself, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with thy power. Thy love and thy way of life, may I do thy will always. Now, that prayer is so simple and so to the point. I don't think it needs a description. I don't think I need to talk about it. It's pretty straightforward, huh? In other words, God, please help remove the things that are objectionable so I can be a better person. That's really what it is. We're trying something different, so we need to keep it simple. Yeah. Or at least we should try and keep it simple, right? Yeah. It says, we thought well before taking this step. Gotta give it some thought. Are you ready? Your sponsor is usually going to ask you something around this time if they haven't already asked you. Are you willing to go to any length? That's the question. And you might get asked more than once. I asked my sponsors twice. And first time we talk, and right after the third step. Are you now willing to go to any length? Because that's when the work is going to get started. They say yes. I give them the fourth step. Give them the first part, right? It says, we thought well before taking the step, making sure we are ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. Utterly means all, everything. A half measure will avail you nothing. You don't get nothing out of half an effort. It's got to be all of it. Now your self-will is going to take stuff back. Just give it up again. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. God, that's yours, not mine. God, that's yours, not mine. God, that's your, and you're not giving God direction. You're just making a statement that is not you that should be working on it. Quit trying to remove your character defects. That's God's job. Hey, I can't remove my character defects, but what I can ask for is the direction that I should take with the anger that I currently have. Right? We found it very desirable to take the spiritual step with an understanding person such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. Isn't it weird because we just did third step yesterday? Anyway, this is going into the fourth step. So, or a spiritual advisor, but it's better to meet God alone than with somebody who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we express the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though, if honestly and humbly made an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Mine did not happen at once. That's okay. If it doesn't happen at once, just, keep doing it until it happens. Next, we launched on a vigorous course of action. So now we are getting into step 4. Next, we launched on a vigorous course of action. The first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little or permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Now, when they say that it needs to be followed by effort, they're saying once that feeling is felt, we launch. It's next, and you don't wait around. It's not wait around on this stuff, okay? And because now we need to have action. We have found some sort of faith, no matter how minimal it is, and now we need to put action into this so that we can sustain the faith, right? So therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process. Okay. We're gonna need to try and keep our emotions out of this as much as we can. All right. Because my emotions don't really take the facts into account. It doesn't. But I tell you, when it comes to your grudge list, take advantage of it. Take advantage of that first list, man, because it's all the bitching you get to do. After that, it's all on you, man. Right? So fact finding, fact facing. Now we've come across a few things here. The first one is causes and conditions. We need to get down to the cause and condition. I was taught to stay away from the particulars. So I didn't write down, my mom did this to me. This person did this to me. I didn't do any of that. No, it came down to causes and conditions. I could sit there all day with particulars. All day. Okay. Because I forgive, but I don't fucking forget. And I don't forget. There's some things I don't forget. If you done me wrong, I do not forget it. All right. So what are we going to do with these things? Because I don't want to sit around all the time thinking about how I'm angry at other people. That doesn't sound like very much fun, right? So we have causes and conditions. Then we have fact finding and fact facing. Okay. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock and trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values, right? So if we're going to get through this, then we have to understand the values. Okay. Now, if you run a grocery store and you have a batch of bad apples, are you going to sell them? Might tick off your customers a little bit, huh? Yeah. Right. You'll be selling, old fruit with, moss and shit growing on it, See, a lot of the things that I was utilizing were not serving any purpose. That my selfishness and my self-centeredness, right? A lot of things were hurt. So I cannot fool myself about the values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure, being convinced that self manifested in various ways, which was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestations, right? So they brought up self, but there's 100 different forms of self in the dictionary, literally 100 different forms of self, right? So we had to consider its common manifestations. Here's another key word: common manifestations. You hear me talk a lot about base emotions. That's what they're talking about here. You will find that most of your resentments, for me, it's 100%, but you're going to figure that out yourself. Fear was the driving emotion in that. Anger is not a base emotion, fear is. And I allowed that fear to turn into anger and then resentment, so on and so forth. Right? So it was fear. Fear was the common manifestation. Right? Now this thing's gonna get repetitive on you. You're gonna be writing the same thing over and over again. Right? You're at Great Clips, huh? Is it for Isaac? Your hair can't be any shorter. My hair's almost longer than yours now. I'm just kidding. Cool. Good. Have fun. I don't trust anybody with my hair. As you can tell, I'm not going to let anybody cut my hair. It's getting pretty long. Whoop. Wait till my bangs are down here. Anyway, all right. So common manifestations, right? Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have not only been mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. Your bangs, oh yeah, never cut your own bangs. That's the rule, right? Never cut your own bangs. Okay. Now, here's a part in the big book that I don't hear very much anymore. And it used to be something we said all the time. So let's not forget about it. It's right here. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. And how do we say it? We say when you straighten your life out spiritually, everything else tends to fall in place. And it's true. I watch it happen all the time. Yeah. Lately, it's had to do more with jobs. People getting sober, their jobs letting them go, and then them finding a better job. Right? Is because they worked on their spiritual malady. And God said, okay, I got something for you. It's going to be even better. Those people don't deserve you. They don't. So I'm going to put you over here where you're more deserved. Yeah. Wow. Now that probably wouldn't have happened unless they got sober and started understanding that they need to get some things done, right? So anyway, in dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. Here's a direction. Pen to paper. We set them on paper. It doesn't say anything else. But it was written in 1939. They had typewriters in 1939. Shut up. No, we still say pen to paper. You are not to be writing this out on Word. You're not to be putting it in your phone. No, you're not to be typing it out. Well, that's the same as writing. No, it is not. It takes more effort to physically write. And that's the point. It's got to be put down on paper. It's got to be staring us in the face. All right. In dealing with resentments, we put them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we are angry. So people, places, and things, that's where we start. All right. And no, I'm not going to sit here and cover the whole 4-step. We'll be here for a while. In fact, I'm going to wrap it up here soon. All right. We had to ask ourselves why we were angry. There's that why. Why? 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 All right. Ask yourself why until there's no more whys, and then you'll be down at the cause and condition. Yes. Good way to do it. In most cases, we found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were burned or threatened. So we were sore, we were burned up. There's a few of our lists right there. Self-esteem, pocketbooks, ambitions. Here's a few more. On our grudge list, we said opposite of our name injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal sex relationships have been interfered with? When we went back through our lives, nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty, and that is the last of the conditions. Now we had a few. We have to get down to causes and conditions, fact finding, fact facing, and thoroughly and honest. These are the key words to step 4. But more importantly, thorough and honest, because thorough and honest include the causes and conditions and the fact finding and fact facing. Right? So it is paramount that we do this thoroughly and honestly, the best to your ability. Are you going to remember everybody? No, you're not. Well, you might. I didn't remember everybody. Well, that doesn't mean it's over with. I just added them onto my list when I remembered. Or I 10-stepped it and then made sure to then try to figure out whether I needed to add them to my 9th step and make an amends. That might happen to you. But then you will have gone through the 5th step and you'll know how to do this in your head. All right? Or you won't do it in your head. You're going to call somebody, hopefully. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. Yeah, including us. Quite wrong. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. That includes everybody, not just alcoholics. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived, and honestly, they didn't exist. Right? It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. And I would agree, because that would describe me when I was still holding on to resentments to the precise extent that we permit these. Do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? See, now that you know better, you are permitting these. You are finding out that you are allowing this. Okay. Even to this day, if somebody makes you angry, it's your fault. I know it sucks. I still hate it, but it's true. And what is that? I can only work with the truth. There's anything else I can work with. All right. But with the alcoholic whose hope is the maintenance growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely great. We found that it is fatal. For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. And even then, anger is not the dubious luxury of normal men. Heart attack, stroke. Anger can fuck your whole body, man. Yes, it can. Yeah. So work on that spiritual malady and everything else will fall into place. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out. And let's not let anybody trudge alone. That one didn't work out. Well, okay, well, then we'll do it the other way. And let's remember, no one ever, ever, ever trudges alone. Yeah, that one's better. All right. Love y'all.